looking at the whole proposed project in both physical and spiritual ways, and I strongly believe that the generation before us had sacrificed so much physically and spiritually to put up this symbol of love. And now it is our time to repolish this love, then pass it on to the generation behind us. And in this way, we may not only have a brave story to tell about the generation before us, but we may also have a proud story to share about our era. Honestly, I believe we need to show some love to this symbol of love.
Well, I'm Pat Bywaters and I'm a 20-year church member, and for the last 2 years I've been partly on staff helping with the property, and it's been a very interesting journey. People like to bring up the fact that I guess at my first report to the session that I said I was going to start a reality TV show called This Old Church. It's very different being behind the scenes, but with the sanctuary renovation it really presents an opportunity to take care of some of the church infrastructure that's not so visible. There's a lot of wonderful things planned for the interior of the sanctuary, but with that comes things that are generally out of sight, out of mind, like how does the electricity get in here? How do we get the place lit? How do we keep everybody comfortable so they can stay focused on worship and God while they're here?
The sanctuary years ago had, to cool it, they had great big fans up on poles that looked like propellers, and they oscillated around, okay? And it was really dark wood. The pastor sat in great big chairs with big woodwork behind them, okay, real fancy backs on them.
I've been here since I was a baby. My mother brought me. But anyway, I remember the fans. That was the big thing to me. But those also remember the doors opening. And we had overflow crowds all the time, and they'd open that wall that's solid now. The big doors would open and all the chairs would be out there for people to sit.
Well, the sanctuary has always gone through a lot of changes. We've seen pictures of the way the original was, and I've always had a hard time picturing it that way because it was so different, and especially with the big removable wall and everything. I wish I could have seen that, but I was born the year they closed it up. So
when John Anderson stepped up and said, "Ladies and gentlemen of the session, I do not want to influence your vote, but I have a member that has volunteered to pay for cushions for the sanctuary." Well, everybody was just in awe until he said, "There is one condition though. He sits in the balcony." And at that point, the session approved cushions for the whole sanctuary.
First off, the sanctuary had the big sliding doors over here on the left side. And when the crowd got large, the doors would open, and the people in the Sunday school rooms on the second floor could just walk right into the seats and look into the sanctuary. John Anderson, when he remodeled a church, that's when they put these big pipes up and they redid the organ. We had a sound booth, which is still the sound booth up there now. When we first had radio for years and years, we broadcast every Sunday morning. And then when we finally got television, we got big lights in those days had set up, and I think once a month we were on television for several years.
The sanctuary is a very meaningful thing to me and my wife, Vicki. Since we were both married there, our children were baptized there, and 2 of our grandchildren were baptized here in the sanctuary.
My grandfather is in the picture where they're digging for this sanctuary.
And this is for Gil Thomas, a beloved longtime member of the church, wonderful teacher and person. And he died, and he always sat in a certain pew on the right side of the sanctuary in the very front. And they were repairing the roof at that point. And it rained hard, and the rain came down right near where he would have been sitting. And everyone decided that he was in heaven crying for joy because he was up there with his Lord.
Oftentimes there would be my dad, myself, and my 2 boys. We had 3 generations taking up the offering.
I was going down the street and I said, "What is that blue domed building right there?" And they said, "That's First Presbyterian Church." And I said, I'll go there in the morning. I did. When I went in the sanctuary, that was the most beautiful dome I had ever seen. I've been there ever since.
My mother and father were married here in 1919 by William Anderson Jr. And then I was baptized in the sanctuary by William Anderson Sr. Janita was the first person to marry in the chapel, and I was the second person to marry in the chapel. I was baptized in 1921. I remember when I was a kid, we used to go up in the top, and we would make little airplanes and we would throw them down into the sanctuary during church service. And John Anderson Sr. came up and took us down and paddled us.
One of the memories I'll always carry with me was my two children singing in the youth choir. And that will be a memory that I will never forget.
I think happens every Sunday when I go in there. At my age, I guess I look up at the dome and the beautiful lighting and over at the stained glass window and then at the cross, and I think to myself, I'm so thankful to be here in this beautiful sanctuary, and I wonder how long I'll be able to come and enjoy it. And I always, when I look around, I have this really great feeling of peace and thankfulness.
And in this sanctuary and in the chapel, my parents worshiped, and their parents, and my husband and I met the first Sunday he was in town in the sanctuary here in the evening. Both my son and his wife and my daughter and her husband met through activities of this church. So we were a rather Presbyterian family. This sanctuary, this church has meant a great deal to me and my family and most of my friends. As a teenager, I sat in the sanctuary here and listened to the sermons of Dr. Frank Brown, and it helped me to form the faith that I've lived by and will die by.
I'm hoping that they get this done because for me, I'm a handicapped person and I have no place to put my chair in the sanctuary. I think all the maintenance and things should have been done years ago, but now I think they really need to redo it and get it fixed up where it'll be here for the future generations.
I think the idea they say they're going to clean the dome. I think that's a real good idea because it is beautiful, and I like the baptismal fount being underneath that sort of. We've never had a center aisle, so it'll be nice to have a center aisle.
I think it's important for people to know that it's not all, to me, it's not all cosmetic, and it's not just getting a center aisle. There's a lot of just bare bones maintenance and structural things that have been needed to be done for many, many years. And I think that helps because some people worry that, you're just making it all fluffy and beautiful and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of, and I think that's been good with what I've read and people I've talked to is, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you can't see but needs to be done just to keep the integrity of the building up.
And I love what they're going to do because that dome is just wonderful, and it's inspirational, I think, to look up and see that.
I think what I would like to see is the beauty of the dome restored, because I've never thought about the fact that it is a little dark, and you can see places where I guess the soot or dust is worn away, and I'm looking forward to seeing that fully restored. I think that will add a great deal to our church.
We both sing in the choir, and I'm excited about some of the changes that will be made to the chancel area. For one thing, we are fortunate to have a crowded choir loft right now. So some of the changes entail giving us more space to continue the third row in the choir room. You have to come to one of the sessions to understand how that can be done, but there will be more space for people to sit and be in the choir. As someone who's performed in musicals in the sanctuary and done a recital in the sanctuary, I love the idea of expanding the space forward so that there is more flat space in front of where the pulpit currently is, to give us more flexibility for instruments and movement and a lot of ease of access. And I think that'll make it a more usable space by a lot of people. So that excites me.
And this church has changed a lot, but it's a wonderful, wonderful place. It's our home. That's what, and now that my wife is ill with Alzheimer's, it has been our rock. The people have really helped us and supported us and taken care of us. And I couldn't be more thankful for that than anything in this world.
I've just come here my whole life, so I love this church.
So there's just a ton of memories, and it's just time to do a little work on this wonderful building and just keep it up. Like the gentleman said this morning earlier, service, for the next generation, people we don't even know, but we need to leave it. People left it for us, and we need to leave it for the people down the road.
It's been a place of many memories, and hopefully there's going to be many more memories made in the sanctuary, a place of worship.
You betcha.
As you think about the capital campaign and the different aspects of it, hopefully you will find the part of the campaign that excites you. I and the others would ask that you prayerfully consider your role in this campaign and its meaning for this church and the congregations to come. Thank you.